Hello, it's Matt Cash, lymphedema therapist with Lilly Clinic in Roanoke, Virginia. And today we are speaking with Laura, who is a very special guest today for a couple of reasons. One, Brylan's Feet Foundation, which I've been talking about for the past 2 weeks because of an incredibly special program called Camp WatchMe, just wrapped up a couple of days ago. Laura was there. I'm jealous. Also, Laura owns her own clinic in Utah. And it's called the Swell Spot, which I think is a fantastic name, by the way. And she's also an educator. She works in a hospital. She's a certified lymphedema therapist. She's a certified wound therapist. She's been in the business for a while. She knows what she's talking about. And I'm very honored to have a discussion with her about Camp WatchMe and how special it is. I think it's special. I'm pretty sure it's special. Anyways, Laura, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not really sure how much more I need to do. That was a great introduction. But just to kind of go off of that, if you had told me a long time ago, Matt, that I'd become a complete nerd for this lymphatic system, I probably would have laughed at you because in PT school, it's always like, are you going to do peds or are you going to do ortho? Or nobody ever talks about lymph and wounds. So I'm not sure this was on my radar back then. But I did fall completely head over heels for this underserved world of lymphedema and wound care. So I've tried really hard over the years to gather all the nerdy initials, the CLT LANA, the CLWT, the WCC, and that just means that I really enjoy this and I go to extreme lengths to learn all about it. So after being in the traditional healthcare settings, just like you have, I realized that we need a space that feels less like a sterile clinic and more like a community. So recently, like you just said, I took the leap and founded the Swell Spot. Our motto being, feel swell, not swollen. And so we focus on lymphedema, post-surgical recovery, lymphatic wellness, all things in the nerdy space. And I like to blend that high-level, top-of-scope care, but have kind of a warm, accessible vibe, be able to sit on a floor, have a conversation. And I just want to make lymphatic health cool and accessible and not to be that thing that nobody knows about when you bring it up in a room. So a little bit about me.
Yeah, Lilly Clinic and the Swell Spot seem to be on a pretty much the same trajectory as far as our goals. Awareness clearly matters a lot to me because of the lack of awareness that's surrounding us, and we need to punch through that. But I love your idea of not having a quote sterile clinic. I get very emotional with my patients. I just do. I feel them in a way, like I could feel their emotion. I could feel their anger. I could feel their frustration. Yeah. And they're honestly, one of the best compliments as a therapist I ever got was on discharge, which was, I don't want to stop coming here. I feel heard. I feel seen. I feel like I'm respected with my complications like I've never been before. And that is the paycheck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so hard in this space to do that. Like we learn to observe and not absorb. And I think it's so hard in this space, but we're always blending that line because you can't not absorb a little bit of it. But kind of have to, it's taken me a long time to be able to not let that just fully destroy me some days.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that because that's about as honest as you could get. So we're here to talk about Camp WatchMe. You volunteered with Brylan's Feet at Camp WatchMe, which was in Minnesota this year. Last year, I believe it was in Colorado.
It was actually in Zumbro Falls last year. So Minnesota last year was the first year.
Okay, awesome. So you volunteered as a certified lymphedema therapist.
Yes.
What was
last year and this year?
2 years in a row? What was the experience like from the therapist side, not just clinically, but just like the feels?
Oh, geez, it's such a big question that it definitely hits you in the feels. So clinically, it's fast paced. We do treatment in the mornings and at night, and they're kids and they don't love to sit still and they want to be with all their friends. Many of these campers that I was with this second session are either this is their second year or 3 years plus. So they have friends, they have, their parents all know each other and, they're so excited to be with each other. So it's fast paced, it's rewarding, but emotionally, it totally fills your cup and it breaks your heart all at the same time. So it's this weird, kind of yin and yang where it's like you are so excited, but then you're also just like you're it's just a ringer. I don't know how else to describe it. But from the therapist side, it's just a blast because it's like this big party for us as lymphedema therapists. And it was really fun to be there with my fellow colleagues. So my ILWTI instructors, my friends, people I've talked to on LinkedIn, or that, we're all creating awesomeness in this space. We actually get to be together face to face. And so we're squealing, we're excited. The kids are, the parents are. It's really just this big lymphedema party. We have glow sticks and campfires and s'mores. We have tubing time. It's kind of the ultimate dream because we actually get to join forces, do all this immense good, help further research for pediatric lymphedema, and there's no insurance paperwork. So it's a win-win. And as therapists, I know we're used to seeing patients in that sterile room, but at camp, you're entirely in their world. And so it's so much fun. 1 minute you're watching a kid self-bandage for the first time, and the next you're zipping down a zip line. And so it's just this crazy back and forth. You're exhausted, but your soul is completely recharged. So it's amazing.
So Brylan's foundation obviously was
Brylan's
founded.
feet, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the foundation was founded for children with primary lymphedema, meaning that they were born with it. What is the age range of these campers?
It's my understanding that you have to be above 5 to go camp and under 18. So camp ages are 5 to 18. And depending on who applies and what is needed, that's where they're at. But the foundation themselves will actually help outside of camp with a whole range. Anybody who needs help, they can reach out. There's resources. But to go to camp, you have to be at least 5.
So Camp WatchMe is very unique, right? Because it brings together summer camp, which every kid should experience summer camp. I know I did, and I loved it. So you have summer camp, you have lymphedema therapy, you have families that are being educated, and the children are being educated as well. And I know therapists are also being educated because there's always something to learn. But what did you see happen when the children with lymphedema were also surrounded by other kids with lymphedema, and then other adults that understand what it is?
It's pure magic. So in their everyday lives, these kids are often the only ones in their school or even their whole town, maybe even the part of the state that have this, or wearing compression garments, or have to go through any of these chronic medical things that are frustrating for adults. So they get the stares, the questions, and the feelings of being different. But at camp, like you'll see it from day one when we're getting on the big bus to go out to camp. The second they look around and see dozens of other kids rocking sleeves and wraps and colors, they're just, their faces change. They light up. Last year we had 2 little girls who showed up that were both wearing like bright pink arm sleeves, and they were just fast friends. Like they just latched to each other, and they were like, did we just become best friends? One of my favorite movie quotes, but it was just great. And so there's this visible collective sigh of relief. The parents have a minute, they get to commiserate, they get to go through all the feelings together. They get to watch their kids grow and thrive and have this just sunshine coming out of them that they don't normally have. So, the absolute highlight, though, you'll love this one, of my week was listening to the kids recite jokes. They recite lymphedema jokes. So you know that when you're in a place where they're finally telling jokes about this, they would come up to you in these little different voices. They tried to be cartoon characters, but they'd be bursting with glee. And one of their favorite jokes was, what did the big arm say to the big leg? And you'd stand there and go, I don't know. And they go, I think you're swell. And then they'd run off. And it was just so much. It was so dumb. Dad jokes were the tone of the hour. We got all these great dad jokes, but you would hear people just that, the big arm to the big leg, and I think you're swell. And everybody would just start just laughing like maniacally. We were a little tired. You're a little stressed. Your son, from the sun, but that joke just hit really great every time. And so the little kids, they really learned that we loved it. So they keep telling it. So it was awesome. And just hearing them cackling with laughter over something about their own condition, that's just everything I need to know about camp. That environment takes that heavy burden from them, and then it becomes that shared bond, right? So they don't have to explain. They just get to run around, play, and be kids. So
humor is great medicine. We all know that, I think, right?
Absolutely.
It's important to laugh, but I cannot imagine feeling as a child like you're isolated or you're different. So this I think this program,
I think theirs is so much more visible, but how many of us as kids had something? Maybe it wasn't as visible, so maybe our parents didn't see it, but we all had something,
Absolutely.
and they just have to deal with it so much in the spotlight. It just makes it harder because, I think as adults, we all have something that we went through as kids, but for them, it's at the forefront. They don't get to hide from it or smile through it, right?
Yeah. What a great program. From a clinical perspective,
Mm.
so I've been doing, it'll be 9 years this fall that I've been a lymphedema therapist. And I think the youngest person that I worked on was 35. So
Yeah.
I've never worked in peds when it comes to
they're just little adults.
So
that's what they'll all say. Yeah.
My question is, is there a difference in treating pediatric lymphedema versus adult lymphedema? And, especially when you factor in the family education component, the compression garments, which the shoes, right? You're going through shoes like crazy because they're growing.
Well, yeah.
Compression is not cheap, obviously, and they're growing. And then there's also the long-term management. So what is the clinical perspective on all that?
So with the adults that we treat, right, you're often dealing with that acquired lymphedema. Most of the time it's secondary unless it's a late bloom of primary. But we're trying to help them adapt to a new normal. That's something totally changed. They just, you're trying to help them with those coping mechanisms. But for many of these kiddos, these pediatrics, this is their normal. They were born with this dysfunction or lack of, or something went wrong within their creation that they just don't have it. It's kind of like having a cleft palate or a little hole in your heart. They just were maybe born with an absence of, or maybe they went through oncology processes early on, but now this is them. And so many times we talk about, you wouldn't let your kid go to school without their glasses. You're not going to let them go to school without their compression. So clinically, though, the math kind of changes constantly for them. You can't just order a garment and call it a day. They'll grow out of it in a blink of an eye. So we have to factor in the growth spurts, the skin maturity, the physical toll, and just their ability to play. So you can't give them something that doesn't allow them to crawl around, jump around. They really have to be active. So we aren't just treating the patient, though. We're treating the entire family, the parents, the siblings, the school. So family education is everything here. So you're dealing with nervous parents and kiddos who don't really know to be nervous yet. And so it's just a lot of navigation, but many of us, you slide right into it, whether for most of us, it comes very natural. So we're teaching parents how to manage wraps right alongside their kids. We start teaching these kiddos from as soon as we can that this is a bandage. This is how you bandage. This is how you care for your body. You ask them for permission. Hey, can I touch you? Is it okay to wrap you? Do you feel like being wrapped tonight? Like, they still have some autonomy. It's not just you have to do this thing because I'm the big adult and you're the kid. So there's a lot of that and honoring that as well. And finding ways to, I talked a lot with my parents this year about having kind of a couple different plans. Like plan A is we do everything possible tonight. Maybe plan B is halfway, and plan C is just, hey, I just want to get in my night garment, Mom. I'm exhausted. You're exhausted, but we're at least doing something. So giving them actionable plans that they never thought about it that way. So many of these parents think if I don't do everything exactly right, something's going to go wrong. But in reality, it's about management and having plans that they can kind of morph in and out of. Busy school nights, track meets, swim meets, plays. They have to have, something that's reasonably for management. So you're teaching them all of this stuff, but in a camp environment. So it's really fun. And you do everything you can to make it not feel like a burden, but this is just where we're at.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, do they? And this is a question actually for me, because I know like good flat knit custom garments are obviously not cheap. Do they do any type of like garment exchange? Because I would assume some of these kids are growing so fast.
So a shout out to two of the sponsors for Brylan's Feet Foundation. Medi does something called Medi for Health, and then Jobst SD also does a program. They come to camp, and so half of the campers get flat knit garments of our choosing. We sit down as CLTs with the kind of the directors, with the parents, with the kids, and we decide what they might need. But every kid who comes to camp leaves with new garments. And so sometimes it's a great way. So like my kiddo this year, really kind of getting at that age where we may need to morph from a knee high to a thigh high. Perfect time to try it because it's free. And so it's still appropriate and clinical, but then it allows them to try Medi, Jobst, SD. They send their best fitters. We get some of the best in the industry out there to help these kids. And so it's really nice because if there's a remake needed, but usually there isn't, just because they're really good at what they do. So thankfully, we've got great sponsors like Medi for Help and the Jobst SD component that help with these kids. So yeah, so there are programs. LNR has a pediatric program. Almost all of the big manufacturers have something, but definitely Medi, Jobst, and LNR. And they work with them on either exchange or like free garments until 5, or there's all sorts of things. But yeah, there's lots of MacGyvering going on. I love that word. I grew up with MacGyver, but sometimes it's taking off the shelves that might fit them, or it's figuring it out. So because they do grow so fast, you're correct. So sometimes it's just, yeah.
And, a little bit of a side note, you mentioned these manufacturers. On Thursday, I'm having Medi's coming in to help me measure someone because I'm very confident in what I measure, but until I measure something I'm not confident in, and then I always bring the fitter in because they're the experts in that. And it's just for any therapists that are listening, these manufacturers want to get it right, and they want to help you get it right, and they want you to treat your patient right because it's just good for everybody involved. So
well, and what's great is the other thing is that even for the pediatrics and even for the adults, all of the forms are usually on their website. So if you're thinking they need a MediBen 550 or whatever it might be, those garment, like, they're on their website. So you can look at the cheat sheets ahead of time. All the measuring sheets are there, and then you can call your rep. And if they don't have a rep local, they can do virtual fittings. So that's the other thing, is that they'll even just zoom in to help you because for the most part, we know what we're doing. I sat around and tried to absorb as much from the fitters as I could, just because I don't do a lot of little kiddos or smaller people. So it was fun to watch and listen to them kind of back and forth and just see what they do. And, just a reminder that different garment companies have different pulls. And it's fun because even though the kids are getting things they need, I'm also getting some education as well. So between all the classes, Eva Sedgwick was there. We talked about genetics. That was one of my favorite talks. It's incredible. So it's just lots of cool stuff to learn.
So as someone who just opened up your own clinic, which, I'm an old timer. It'll be 7 months for Lily Clinic to be open.
Right? Yeah.
Like, I've been at this for so long, so I have a lot of insight, but I'm going to not give that to you.
Yeah. I love that.
What I'm doing. Yeah. I'm figuring it out as I go. Right. But regardless, opening a new lymphedema clinic and having had volunteered at Camp WatchMe, that has got to shape the way that I would think it's got to shape the way your perspective is at operating your own clinic. Has it changed the way you're approaching things after the past week?
I don't know if it's really changed. It's just more kind of solidified my vision. Like at camp, we treat these kids holistically, mind, body, community, functional. Like even though I'm a PT, I'm running into some of those functional realms of the OT world. And that's what I want to build here at the Swell Spot, is that I don't want my clinic to feel like a place where you just come to get wrapped and sent on your way. Next, right? I want it to be that sanctuary for education, empowerment, genuine connection, having resources. Camp just reminds you that effective lymphedema care doesn't have to be about just the reduction of fluid. It's about that quality of life, building confidence, and letting people know they have a team in their corner. So whether I'm seeing a patient in my stationary clinic or out like on a mobile day like today, that camp spirit kind of, you can do this and we've got your back, kind of sticks with you. And I want it to be woven into everything that we do here. I'm a one-man band for now, but I really feel like this is just the spirit. You can do it. We've got your back. And that's pretty much like today's visit with my gentleman was, he just needed to, I could have told him everything he needed to hear over the phone, but he needed somebody to sit in his living room and tell him, you're going to be okay. And we've got this, and I want that for our community.
I think that's honestly the essence of therapists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We
I think the future of what we do is going to be private.
Oh, I agree. 100%.
Just because I think that what is demanded and what is needed, and eventually I think that we're going to have board certified lymphatic doctors. I think we're pushing towards that. There's some rumblings, but I think eventually we're going to have these lymphedema centers of excellence. It's a huge missing piece in chronic conditions. I see it every day in the hospital that we just ignore it and just hope that all this other stuff goes away. But if you don't get rid of that swelling, if you don't get rid of it, chronic swelling over 90 days is lymphedema. So at least in the acute care realm, for all those people out there who do acute care, fighting to get the diagnoses, we just got the big win that we're about to get the ICD-10s for lymphedema, but it's just that advocacy and fighting. The sooner we get them classified, the sooner they can get treatment. So
yeah, we actually should reconvene at another time and have that full-on discussion, because I have a lot to say about the lack of understanding, the ignorance, the venous insufficiency components. I could go on and on and on.
I just hosted the APTA Acute Care Academy, asked me to come on, and I did a webinar for them on, it was called More Than Just Swelling, basically how to deal with edema in acute care. And so we had like 140 people sign up. Only like 45 or 50 showed, but the amount of outreach and pouring from all these neurotherapists and ortho and acute and cardio, like, what do we do? How do we do? It was so amazing. There's such a need for this education right now, and for people like us to help kind of bridge that gap. We've got this really cool skill set, and it's nice to be able to see it kind of at the forefront right now.
My hope is the term lymphedema and complete decongestive therapy and certified lymphedema therapist should be known in every household in America, because every household in America knows someone. If they're not living in that house, they know someone who's living next door.
Absolutely.
That has.
Oh, absolutely. So, I think I say this to my team a lot. I have a lot of new grads, but I like to say that edema, like kindness, is everyone's responsibility. So it doesn't matter if you're PT, OT, nursing, docs. If you've got a patient with swelling, we should all have eyes on it. And we should all be concerned about it. It shouldn't just be, those OTs in the closet basement who deal with the post-mastectomy patients. No, there's so much more to it, and it needs to be given the correct respect.
Yeah, and awareness is everything, right? But so with that said, Camp WatchMe, Brylan's Feet Foundation is all about raising awareness. If there's a parent right now that's listening to this conversation and they have a child that has lymphedema, or I would not honestly be
surprised
if there's parents that are listening to this that don't even have a diagnosis for their child yet. Yeah. I can't imagine what that feels like. What would you say to them as someone who's experienced Brylan's Feet Foundation, experienced Camp WatchMe for 2 years going? What would you say to these parents?
You know what? I think the first thing that you need to tell any parent who's dealing with something like this is take a deep breath. I know it feels very overwhelming, but just take that big deep breath. The late night Google searches aren't going to be a really scary place for you. Don't do it. But you might still do it. But if you do, take that deep breath and then find you a good CLT. But you are not alone. So that's what I'd want to tell them. You're not alone, and that help is out there. So there is a passionate and incredibly dedicated community of pediatric lymphedema specialists and incredible organizations like Brylan's Feet Foundation and Camp WatchMe under their umbrella, who are ready to wrap arms around your family and bring you in and help you. Your child is very capable of living a big, beautiful, limit-free life. And I don't want you to be afraid to demand the specialized care your child deserves. So if you're in the middle of nowhere, Iowa or Montana, or if you feel like there just isn't resources, we're here for you. The internet has brought a lot of people together, and there's lots of help. So we are here, we see you, and your child is going to be just fine. And honestly, just a quick shout out for camp and the life-changing support we wouldn't be able to give to you if we didn't have great sponsors and vendors. So again, the people that I've mentioned before, MediUSA, Jobst, Compression Dynamics, Edema, where you've got LymphaPress and Eros and all of these people who, even if they're industry participants, they have educational modules and educational content for you, and they want to help your son or your daughter, your children. And so there's a huge amount of us. There's therapists, there's industry, there's foundations. We're all here for you, whether you know it or not yet, but we're here for you and we're coming for you. So
there's more therapists than people realize. I'm confident in that. And that's why, a couple of weeks ago when I found out about the Swell Spot, like, I want to put it out there. Like, We need
we're so
these small
thankful.
clinics to be seen and heard, because this is the change that is required, and this is where the change is going to come, is from the ground up. That's my belief. I have one final question for you. You don't know this, but I used to work for a camp with kids.
Okay.
These kids didn't have lymphedema.
Okay.
These kids were actually locked up because they committed crimes. And we took them out of juvie hall or jail, and we brought them into a wilderness program, and we taught them skills and a lot of things. But one of my favorite things about camp was songs, the singing. We sang grace at every meal.
Okay.
And we sang funny graces. We had themes. We had the Addams Family theme. We had all sorts of themes. So my question to you is, does Brylan's Feet, Camp WatchMe, do they have songs that they sing?
So we do not have, sorry, I'm laughing too hard right now. We have a talent show.
Okay.
We don't sing songs, like we don't line up. We don't do, a lot of the other campers were doing that. So we actually shared space at Camp Victory in Zumbro Falls with other day campers. There were campers that were staying for week-long sessions. So we were mixed in with everybody, and thankfully very awesome, very respectful. But you'd hear them singing all the funny songs. But I would say that the song that kind of took off this year at the talent show was Pink Pony Club.
Yeah.
So that would be, if I ever hear that song again, I'm going to think of the talent show. I'll have to find the videos for you. But a bunch of them put together and they were showing off their garments, and it was just a really good time. But no, we don't do any of that kind of singing. We have some clapping, and the kids will, we only had about 16 or 17 kids this year, I believe. I'd have to go back and check. But we don't have anything like that. But that doesn't mean we can't. But we don't have anything like that yet. But we have pump parties. So we get out all the pumps that like Eros has donated. Eros is one of the few companies that actually has a pediatric fit pant pump. So they have sizes that are small enough for these kids. And so we'll watch movies, and we'll be on the pump, and we'll do nightly treatment. And so we make it fun. So, but they kind of make up their own little songs, their own little, the clap hands and all the different things. So, yeah.
Well, Lauren Chevreaux of the Swell Spot in St. George, Utah.
Yep, correct.
Right? St. George,
I'm closer to Vegas than Salt Lake, so yep.
She's closer to Vegas than Salt Lake. Has a brand new lymphedema clinic. She's a good therapist. I know it. Thank you so much for being on this Lily Pod. I really appreciate it. Thank you for talking about Camp WatchMe, pediatric lymphedema, what the camp is about, what the therapy is about. I really, really do appreciate it so much.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime we can spread the word and advocate for anything in our space, I think that we should. We just have to remember that there's a lot of people out there listening. That's something I'm learning more than ever, that there's so many people who want to hear what we have to say. And so taking our time to really make sure that what we do say, it matters. And so I'm just so happy to be here to spread that light and kind of be that light in the world. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate it.